Surveillance. It's not a word most of us use in everyday conversation, but you should know something about it, especially if you're going to be traveling or living internationally. Why might someone be watching you? Most likely it would be a petty thief looking for an easy mark. And that's an important point. It's true that on rare occasion, travelers can get kidnapped or taken hostage. Not something we like to think about day to day. But what's good to know is that the same techniques that can help prevent petty crime can make you a hard target for more dangerous situations too. The opposite of a hard target is a soft target, someone who looks especially vulnerable. Most often the objective of surveillance is to spot the easy victim. If you look distracted or you don't seem to be paying attention to what's going on around you, you're a soft target. Projecting yourself in a confident and focused way is the first step in making yourself a hard target. Beyond that, there are some other simple things you can do to protect yourself. The kinds of preventative steps you take may vary depending on where you're going. Now, regardless of destination though, there are several things you can do in advance to help deter surveillors or help you respond if you sense you're being watched or followed. If you're going to places of high risk, make sure you have good maps and mark them in advance, with potential safe havens like friendly embassies or consulates, police stations, even hospitals. If you've thought about contingency strategies beforehand and have emergency and other important numbers available, it could make all the difference between a good or a bad outcome. Successfully detecting surveillance usually depends on a combination of paying attention and breaking patterns or expectations. If you were trying to follow someone, what would you do if they suddenly reverse direction? You'd have to make split-second decisions on how to respond. That's the situation you can create for anyone who might be trying to follow you when you break a pattern or an expectation. If you're on a street with storefronts, you can make an unpredictable stop and look in a window. Then you can use the glass as a mirror to see if there's anything suspicious. Or you can suddenly step into a shop and watch to see if anyone on the street responds, paying close attention to anyone who might come in after you. If this happens, you'll want to make mental notes about their dress and appearance. When you go back out onto the street, stay alert to any reactions. Does anyone seem to respond? Are there any other indicators that might suggest you're still being followed? Don't ignore your intuition. Your senses take in more information moment by moment than your conscious mind can process, and your intuition is a shortcut through all that. So pay attention to your gut feelings, and be careful not to explain them away or talk yourself out of them. In most cases, surveillance is detected through a combination of observation and recollection. Have you seen the same person at a different time and place? Have you seen the same person a third time in yet another place? Have you seen the same car, van, truck, taxi, or motorcycle? To answer these questions, you'll need to stay aware of what's going on around you and stay alert to anything that seems unusual or suspicious. Be aware of faces, and while you might not think about it, pay special attention to shoes. While someone may change clothes to prevent detection or continue surveillance from day to day, it's possible they won't change their shoes. It's also a good idea to keep in mind there are certain places where surveillance is more likely to happen, such as airports, hotels, restaurants, and even company-sponsored events. And of course, surveillance is more likely in any place tourists gather. So how can you respond to surveillance? Actually, in most cases, you can just follow the suggestions we've already given you. It's these actions that make you a hard target. If you're being observant, people will recognize that, especially if you're projecting confidence. there's a good chance they'll move on and look for someone who's more vulnerable. On the other hand, if you suspect you've become a target of persistent surveillance, what should you do? First, it's important to remember that if you sense there's an element of danger, then anything you do or don't do could add to that danger. Be sure to consider all of the circumstances, such as your location, time of day, and number of people in your area. Ultimately, only you can decide what action makes the most sense in the moment. It might be good to make a phone call and report the surveillance, but if you think making a call could slow your ability to get to a safer location, it might be best to wait. On the other hand, if you think you can safely make a call while you're in motion, you should consider doing that. In these kinds of situations, you should consider calling both the local emergency number and your appropriate corporate security line. You may want to call a friendly embassy as well. You can help limit the impact of surveillance by employing effective techniques that take almost no effort. Avoid discussing information in conversations that might be overheard by strangers. Don't discuss your itinerary or travel information when others are in earshot. That includes the name of your hotel, travel partners, how long you'll be in the country, or anything else that might help someone know where you will or won't be at any given time. Talking about something as simple as your dinner plans could give valuable information to someone who wants to know when it would be safe to break into your room. If you're going to be in the same location for several days, vary your routes and schedules if you can. Whenever there's more than one entrance to a hotel or to any other place you visit, vary the one you use. The point is to be unpredictable. Of course, many petty thieves don't bother with surveillance. They act spontaneously, but there are still things you can do to protect yourself. When you're walking, keep to the inside of the sidewalk, facing traffic. It makes it harder for someone to jump out of a vehicle and snatch either you or any valuables. And keep your briefcase or purse close to your body at all times. At restaurants and cafes, keep your briefcase or purse under the table between your feet. Slipping your foot through the shoulder strap can also help make these parcels more secure. When eating outside, pick a table away from pedestrian traffic. Criminals always look for a quick getaway. When possible, eat inside, and always take note of where the exits are. In taxis, it's best to keep valuables with you on the floor between your feet. Keep in mind, in some areas, thieves work in teams where one spots a potential valuable and marks the car. Another makes the snatch. Jewelry and watches are also attractive, so it's always good to dress down. Finally, pay special attention whenever something unusual happens. A scuffle or a fight nearby. Anything that grabs people's attention might be a planned diversion to distract you. Try not to limit your focus on the event itself. Instead, stay alert to other potential threats to your personal safety. The information and techniques we've covered should help make you safer whenever and wherever you travel. But it's worth remembering that all of this also applies to your day-to-day life. It's always good to think in advance about how you'd handle various kinds of unexpected situations. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Stay conscious and protective of your valuables. If something unusual happens, try not to focus only on the event itself, but also on your personal safety. And finally, be mindful, not fearful.